Okay, now I think we're back on. We had a technical problem and we cut out there somewhere. So,
I think we
uh,
missed all the
do we
questions.
miss all the questions? All right. Well, let's just start all over again then, because if we did that, we want to make sure we answer the questions and make sure we take care of everybody. So I think we're online now. If you would go ahead and repeat the first question that you had, and we'll try to respond to it.
Okay, Sophie in Galveston asks, the House and Senate passed a 2-year budget deal last week. What do you think about it? I see from the paper that your opponent voted in favor of it.
Okay, as I answered this a few minutes ago, but we apparently were not online. Um, the I want to tell you a story about a guy who was helping his wife out with the kids, and they were going ahead, and they were he was cooking in the kitchen, and the family room that's attached to the kitchen was the kids were watching TV, and they're watching TV, and on the TV program there were some bad words being used, and he said, "Kids, turn that TV off." And he said, "Oh, Dad, there are only a couple of bad words. Come on, let us keep watching it." So the dad went ahead and kept cooking, and he actually was baking. He was baking brownies for the kids. So when he finished that, he told the kids the brownies were ready, and the kids were all excited about having some brownies. Well, um, before he gave them the brownies, he said, "I want to tell you one thing, kids." He said, I ran out of chocolate. So what I did is I went out to the garden and I got some dog poop and I put it into the brownies to make sure I could fill the recipe up. So there's a little bit of dog poop in the brownies, but not a whole lot. Just go ahead and enjoy them." And he said, "We're not going to eat that stuff. It's got dog poops in the brownies. We're not going to do that." And so that's a description of what this budget bill was. I mean, you had some very good things in it. Good chocolate stuff. Like you had, you know, money for defense. You had money for border security. You had money for recovery from Hurricane Harvey, for example. Excuse me. All those things are good, but it also had in it $500 billion, trillion with a T, to fund Planned Parenthood. I couldn't vote for something like that. It had. I mean, the debt's going to be increased by over $1 trillion because of it. I mean, Speaker Ryan and even the president have said we need to get this spending under control. Well, that's not what this bill does. And besides that, it completely eliminates the debt ceiling for a year until March of 2019. That means the government can borrow anything it wants to borrow. Well, in the current environment, what we have is a situation where people want things with instant gratification. We want the money for Hurricane Harvey. We want the money for the border security. All those things are good things. But when you do that, do you really want to forget the long term implications of what we're doing here? I can tell you, Louis Gohmert from Texas voted against that bill. My opponent voted for it. I understand politically, it's hard to vote against something like that because it's money for people in your district who need that money, and I understand that. But is it really the right thing to do? I'm not sure that it was. So I think there's a problem with it. I mean, what could have been done, if it had been considered under an open rule, would be to split off those things you don't want. For example, you could say, well, we're gonna fund this, but we're gonna get rid of the money for Planned Parenthood. You could do that. Unfortunately, the rules of the House that they followed, and this is a part of the problem that we have with leadership in the House and in the establishment in the House. They bring bills to the floor that you cannot amend. You either have to vote yes or no on each bill. That's a problem. If you go back to 2005, 2006, we had, a lot of bills that were done under an open rule where you can amend it at any point. In this Congress, we haven't had any that are under open rule. They're all under either a closed rule or a modified open rule where certain amendments are allowed but nothing else. And that's a problem for me because I think we need to be able to have, as a member of Congress, be able to get up on the floor of the House and say, I want to have an amendment that does such and such because I don't like this part of that bill. And that's not happening. That's a function of leadership. The House Rules Committee votes and basically does what the Speaker wants. I can tell you if when I'm elected, the bottom line is my first vote will not be for Speaker Ryan. I can tell you that. The only caveat to that is if it means that Nancy Pelosi is going to be the Speaker, then I'll vote for Ryan. But other than that, I'm not voting for him because I don't think he's doing what's right. And that's his personal opinion. Next question.
Okay. And we also have a comment that the audience is having a little bit of trouble hearing, so I'll try to speak up.
You or me?
Possibly both.
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry for the cough. But having a hard time getting it done. Go ahead.
so George in Jefferson County asks, will you consider all spending open for reduction and vote only for budgets that lead to a path to balance the budget? And will you vote against any appropriation bill that increases total spending?
I think that every single bill that passes that is considered by the House, that we ought to look at does this increase the debt? Does it increase spending? And we ought to go back to zero-based budgeting. You know, the process in the Congress is you first of all you have to have something authorized. Then at that point, the appropriators will appropriate the money for something that's been authorized. I think you need to make sure that everything that you bring to the House floor is spending that's one authorized underneath the Constitution of the United States, and then beyond that, is it something we really really need? And is it worth the money we're going to spend on it? And how much of that money will we spend on it? I'm against, I mean, people say we're reducing the increase of the debt or the increase the amount of money we're spending. Well, we shouldn't be reducing the increase. We should be reducing the total spending. So I'm very cognizant of that. I will not be a member of Congress who goes along to get along and funds things that I believe are wrong, and that increase the debt. We can't. Speaker Ryan said we have to deal with the debt. We have to deal with this trillions of dollars that we're enslaving our kids and our grandkids, and we need to do that, and we need to do it now. I mean, the budget bill, we increased the debt by $1 trillion. Speaker Ryan, where was he? I mean, he says we've got to get control of the spending, and then he does that. Hello? Where's he coming from? Anyway, don't get me going on that. Next question.
Paula in Brazoria County asks, I saw in the news this week stories about an Iranian drone penetrating Israeli airspace and Israel retaliating. What are your views about this?
Well, if somebody first of all, the Iranians are in Syria, which is an issue for me. But if Syria or the Iranians or whomever violated Israelis' airspace, the Israelis have the right to protect themselves. They have the right to respond, and they did so. Now, they lost an aircraft in the process, but the bottom line is that if somebody is threatening their country, I mean, how would you feel if the Russians sent one of their aircraft over our refineries? How would you respond to that? The Texas National Guard would respond to it real quick. All right. So the bottom line is that every country has the right to guard and to protect its airspace as well as its borders. And the Israelis they're our only friends out there in the Middle East. So heck yes, they do what was right.
Okay. Susie in Jefferson County asks, why is it that President Trump didn't have a problem releasing the Republican memo about FISA, but he refused to do so for the Democrats' memo?
I think you mean FISA.
FISA.
F-I-S-A? Yeah,
FISA.
Yeah.
Isn't this just playing politics again?
Well, no, I don't think it is. No, I haven't seen the Democratic memo, so none of us have, except many of the people who are involved with this process of clearing it. But I mean, what I'm hearing in the news, and that's all I have access to, is that they had sources and methods involved with in that memo. That means American lives, or in some cases, foreign assets that are cooperating with us, could be put in harm's way if that was released. That's a problem for me. I mean, if you get somebody who's giving you information that's sensitive, that helps your country, and then you just broadcast it out there who that person is, and they get taken out, the next guy is not going to be so willing to help out. So when sources and methods are involved, then I think it's right for the president to say no. My understanding from what I heard on the news is that he said to the Democrats, go back and work this with the FBI and the Justice Department to make sure that sources and methods are not included, and then do it again. And if that's, if they can do that, then I think it should be released, but not until that's scrubbed from it.
And next question is from Glendon in Brazoria County, who asks, what are your views on the U.S. Postal Service and whether they should deliver mail 6 days a week?
Well, we're getting mail 6 days a week here, so I don't know whether I heard there were plans to scrap delivery on weekends. I don't think that should be done. But I think the post office needs to take a good look at its physical situation and to try to cut back where it can. I don't want to have raised rates either, but at the same time, there must be. I would think there'd be a way of automating or doing things that in a better way. But I would resist having delivery only 5 days a week. If that's what's required, then I guess we'd have to do it. But that's not something I would look forward to.
All right. Brenda in Brazoria County asks, why are you the best candidate in this race? What are your qualifications, and why should the voters choose you?
Well, let's start with qualifications. I worked on Capitol Hill for over 23 years, 22, 23 years, something like that. I worked for 2 congressmen. I worked for a senator, did legislation for the U.S. Department of Commerce as part of their legislative team. Got major bills passed. I think I've mentioned it before, but I don't know if I mentioned it on the broadcast or not. I got past the Export Administration Act, which is a bill upon which the sanctions on North Korea are currently based. A lot of other bills that I helped get passed. So I have a track record of accomplishment on the Hill at Capitol Hill. I also have a track record of accomplishment in Austin. Over between 87, 88%, something like that, of the bills that I've tried to get passed have been passed, compared to my opponent who is somewhere down in the teens or below that. So I have the ability, God-given ability or whatever, to pull people together, to form consensus, and to be able to get things accomplished. People, there's one bill, for example, in Austin, where I was driving down I-70 or I-10 at 70 miles an hour. Excuse me again. And I got a call from one of the stakeholders. I was on my way to testify in Austin, and I got a call from one of the stakeholders. And the stakeholder said, I got a problem with this bill. I said, wait a minute, we all agreed to this. What's the problem? And he talked about what the problem was. I said, let's get together at 1 o'clock. I'll be there by 1 o'clock. Let's get together and talk about it. So we got all the stakeholders together, including the representative from the Democratic Party, the representative from the Republican Party, and all the stakeholders. We got together. We talked it over for about an hour. And then I was to draft the language for the change that we had agreed to. I couldn't get it done in time for the hearing. Every single person who testified, who was a stakeholder, who testified on that bill, testified and said, we need this bill. This is a must-pass piece of legislation. We have a change coming, which we'll get to you later. But when we get this to you, we want this bill passed. Now, how many people do you know who would say that on public testimony on record when they've never even seen the language? I hadn't drafted it yet. All right, what does that say about my integrity? That says they trusted me. They knew I would not give it to the committee without getting approval from everybody and having a consensus from everybody. That's how I operate. I work with people. I'm honest with them, and I don't play games. So it's about getting things accomplished and figuring out what we can do to get things done. I want to do that in Washington. I did it when I was there before as a staff person and as a person working for the Commerce Department. I know I can do it again. And the reason I know I can get it done is because I treat people with respect. What we're seeing up there is we're seeing a bunch of elementary school kids who are running this country. And we need to stop this. We need to stop this silliness. This Congress is dysfunctional, and the members of Congress that are part of that need to be replaced. And that's what I'm about. I want to get things done. I want to get them done now. I can tell you I won't serve more than 3 terms. Excuse me. But we need to take the business of getting things done seriously and not blame others. You know, when you start blaming somebody, what's that say about you? Take responsibility if you blow it, and when and work together. And you know, if I have a bill that I want to get passed, and the chairman of the committee wants to put his name on it, who cares? The bottom line is, if the bill gets passed, we all win. I don't care who gets credit for it. The bottom line is, let's get the job done, and that's what I'm about. Now, that was the qualifications and why I'm the best candidate. I guess I covered all that.
And why should the voters choose you?
Because I'm the best candidate.
Seems simple. Michelle in Galveston asks, the Republicans control both houses of Congress and have the White House, and yet they seem unable to resolve issues and govern. What do you think is needed to unclog the stalemate in Congress and to get things accomplished in Washington?
Well, I think I just touched on that. One of the problems is that people are blaming each other, and they're pointing fingers. Excuse me. I'm really sorry about this cold. Please forgive me. I can't get rid of this cough. You know, when you deal with people, you know, if you say things bad about somebody, and then you want to work with them, how are they going to respond to that? They're not going to respond well. And if you put people into categories like you're a Democrat, you can't be any good. Well, I'm sorry. I know a lot of Democrats who are good, and who I've worked very well with, and the same goes the other way around. There are a lot of Republicans I work with who are really good. There are some Republicans and some Democrats I've worked with who are not so good, but that's an individual thing. And you know, you don't cram your position down other people's throats. You got to work with people. You got to figure out, you got to figure out where you want to go first, and then you look for options and ways to get it done. And all this political rhetoric about the other parties doesn't wash in my book. In my book, it's about getting things accomplished. Now, I'm not going to give up my conservative principles. I'm a conservative. I'm a constitutional conservative. I'm not going to give up those principles. Period. But I'm not going to shove them down somebody's throat, because if I do that, they're going to regurgitate them on me. And I don't want that to happen either. You got to develop relationships, just like I did in Austin, the example I told you earlier. And so people can trust you and know that you're a square shooter. Once they know that, then they'll trust you and they'll work with you. I'll give you one more example. Excuse me again. When I worked on Capitol Hill, I worked with the people on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Democrat controlled. I was Republican, still a servant, but I was a Republican. They knew I was a Republican. And when I was asked to do some things by the Republican administration that were political, I said, no, you get somebody else to do that. Because I wasn't going to cross that line. I knew what I could do and what I couldn't do and what I would do and what I wouldn't do. Well, when the Republicans went out of office and President Bill Clinton came into office, guess who became my boss? It was the staffers I've been working with on the Hill. And why was I included in the inner circle with the Democrats as a person in congressional and legislative affairs? Why was I included in that inner circle? Because they knew they could trust me. The bottom line is, if you're a person of character and people know they can trust you, they will do so. And at that point, you have a basis to move forward. And yeah, I mean, if you're going to call people names and you're going to treat people without respect, then what you're going to get is what we see in Congress today, which is dysfunction. So we got to stop this. We got to treat people with respect. I hope that answers your question.
James in Brazoria County asks, do you support the Life at Conception Act, and will you push for its passage?
I have not seen that act. The Life with Conception Act? Is that what it's called?
James' question here calls it the Life at Conception
Life at
Act.
Conception Act. Well, excuse me. I believe life starts at conception. I'm not sure what the act says. I'm not sure what the act does. So I can't really answer that question as it relates to that act. I can tell you that I believe life starts at conception, and I think that the unborn should be protected. Other than that, I don't know how to answer the question, because I haven't read the act, so I don't know what it does. but I assume it's something along those lines.
And Jimmy in Galveston County asks, what is your stand on net neutrality?
Net neutrality. Wow. I'm not sure I know much about. I know some basics about that. I believe that companies should be, that are ISPs, the people who control like the various internet service providers, should be able to charge whatever they want to charge. And in a free market, they should be able to go ahead and to if they want to give a better, a higher rate of speed to one user versus another because they're paying more money, and if the market will justify that, I've got no problem with that. But I'm not really sure, other than that, how to respond to that question. Let me look into that. It's Jimmy.
Yes, Jimmy
Let me
in
look at
Galveston County.
let me look into that, and if you send us an email, I assume. So let me go ahead and deal with that, and I'll get back with you by email on that. But thank you for the question.
And that's all we have for tonight.
That's it. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. Next week we'll do it on Monday, which is supposed to be Monday Moments with Sarge. But last couple of weeks have been Tuesday Moments because I had other kind of conflicts with my schedule. But I will be here on Monday at 8 o'clock next week, and look forward to talking to you. Please feel free to submit questions, and we'll go ahead and try to respond to them. God bless you. God bless our country.